You are listening to the Examine Life with Bram Levinson. And we are recording.
Great.
So, I am here with Dyan Soloman, who is a very, very good friend of mine, and she is one of the funniest people I know, and I'm very, very happy to have her here on the podcast, on this episode of the podcast. She is the co-owner of Olive Gourmando, Foxy, which was rated the 35th best restaurant in Canada, and the 6th best new restaurant of 2016 by En Route magazine, the official magazine of Air Canada. She is also the co-owner of Po Di Piu, and has most recently opened up micro versions of both Olive Gourmando and Foxy at the newly opened Time Out Market in downtown Montreal. Dyan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Isn't it weird that I'm saying welcome to the podcast even though I'm in your home?
Yes, it's very weird.
I'm saying welcome to your home.
And I feel like I'm on the Jetsons or something.
Why?
Podcast. I don't know. Just the
Really?
word. Yeah.
Is it very future-y?
Doody.
You have just released a cookbook
I have.
that is sort of getting everyone's attention at the same time.
I know. I'm happy about it.
You should be happy about it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful cookbook.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is that it's an Olive Gourmando cookbook rather, and not necessarily a Dyan Soloman cookbook.
No.
Your name is on it.
Yes.
But
And
your
I wrote
name's
it,
not
but-
in big.
No.
Was that intentional?
Yes.
Why?
Just like I didn't want my face plastered on the front. I mean, one obvious reason that I'm no longer 20. That was one of the reasons I didn't want my face
And why?
plastered on the front. And the second being that a restaurant is not only about the owner. That's a silly illusion.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting you're saying that though, because I spoke to a friend of mine yesterday, and I told her that I was coming to do this with you today, and I said, what would you ask her? And she said, it's not really a question, but I find it interesting that in Montreal, at least, there are a lot of male chefs who are out there putting their name on everything, putting their name on any accessory, any condiment, anything that they can get their name on. And she said, I think it's really fascinating that from an outsider's point of view, Dyan is not doing that. She seems to choose the projects that she gets involved with, and she does them perfectly, and she goes like the extra mile with them, but it's not really about her name.
No, I don't want. First of all, that's a lot of pressure as well. You have to have a lot of, I don't know, bravado and ego and stamina. I'm happy to share the weight of everything with as many great people as I can. All of my employees, the people, my core staff. I mean, they're a huge part of our success. So I don't want all that in any kind of way.
And yet, and so is there a conflict because you are sort of the face?
Yeah,
You are the media face.
I am the face. It's true.
And the voice.
And in a way, I mean, I'm definitely the voice of the business with my partner. I mean, we are the people who created these spaces. We set the tone. These are our ideas. This is what we wanted to do. But after that, these ideas get fleshed out by everybody else. You know, it's just so patriarchal that, you know, the king and the what. It's silly. To me, it's very silly. It's actually laughable. I mean, it's like when people say to me, oh, do you cook every day in your restaurants? I'm like, I'm one person. I have almost 5 restaurants. What do you think I cook every day in my restaurant?
Just like round robin.
How's that even possible? Or, you know, I mean, I'm everywhere. But I mean, of course, I have amazing people. That's how I do this. Mm-hmm. And they deserve the credit.
Well, and you know what? I know a lot of those people throughout the years, and they're all such incredible people. Such big personalities, such big hearts, all of them.
Yeah,
It's almost like attracted like.
I guess.
Or maybe like stuck to like.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, you know, you do attract your tribe. There's no doubt. I mean, it has to be, right? You go work somewhere. If you don't like the boss, you're not going to stay.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
After that, what you build with people, the family you construct, the business that you sort of build with a team, that's about the magic that happens, you know, the chemistry between people. That's another level of commitment. And I think we do have some really great relationships with maybe about 10 people who work for us that have been around for a long time, and we continue to create this mini empire together.
It is becoming a mini empire. It's fascinating. Let's talk about the cookbook for a moment. I know that were you courted by the publishing house for years to do it?
I was, by many.
Many.
But I fell in love with this woman, Sophie Benford. She's the one of the owners of KO Édition, which is a French publishing company. But they're mostly in media and magazines, actually. Very big in the sort of French world of media and magazines. So she wanted to open up a small publishing company and publish books, the books that she felt were very special. And she's just sort of been after me for years. But the thing that I love about Sophie is she's also one of our best customers. So it wasn't just about her wanting to do our book because whatever. Like she truly loves our restaurants. And for me, that was the biggest thing. Because there was a very interesting publishing company from Toronto that I really respect their work, but I'm not even sure they've ever eaten at Olive Gourmando. So for me, it's kind of like, I love the fact that Sophie loves us. And she's also made the most recipes out of the book.
Really? And posted them on social media?
She sends them to me every single day. And her joke is like, between her friends, they all have the book, and she'll say things like, "Est-ce que tu viens ce soir, on mange chez Olive, chez nous?" or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, you guys. So yeah, she's a real fan, a true lover of what we do. So it was fun to work with her. It makes sense to me.
What was it about? I mean, obviously she's part of the culture.
Yeah.
But why now?
I mean, I give a lot of credit to her because I've been wanting to do this for almost 10 years, especially in the last 5, really thinking, I got to do this, and just never finding the time. And also not knowing where to start. If you've never written a book, it's very daunting. You're like, well, who, how, what, where? Like, the whole project just seems huge. You can't imagine how you're going to possibly pull this thing off. And she was very persistent. She's a very persistent person. But also, she would sort of break it down for me, and she would like, don't think you're going to have to do all this alone. There's going to be this, there's going to be that person's going to do this, you're going to have this support. So, you'll be able to do this part. And even if that part's too much, someone could even write it for you if you wanted. Like, she really made me feel like the project was doable. She was the first person to sort of map it out for me.
That was
very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there moments where it was so difficult that you thought, okay, this is not worth it, I can't do this, we're giving up, we're not going to do it? In the process?
Yeah. The writing of the book was very easy in a way. Like, it just felt natural. It felt good. I think what was hard was writing a cookbook and owning all those other businesses and being responsible to my employees and not always being able to help them. So there were moments during, like, especially the shooting of all the recipes, when things were crumbling at Olive. We had a really bad summer, and we lost our chef, a woman who'd been working with us for 11 years. We lost her for many reasons, one of which she'd had a child, and I think it was very taxing to be the chef of Olive and be but a mom, a young mother. But I was not able to sort of jump in there and sort of see what was going on and be a support in the way that I usually would be. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just couldn't. I was lined up for this photo session, and these are people who are very busy, and we've put aside that week to take the photos almost a year ago. It's like, it's not me. I can't just sort of be like, I can't make it, So that was really hard for me. That really tore me apart. And I didn't like that.
Okay.
So, but it wasn't that I didn't like the book. I loved the process of the book.
And so there was nothing specific to the book, though, that was so difficult that you thought...
Nothing. It was so easy.
Really?
It was so fun.
Really?
Yeah.
And do you think that's because the whole process was sort of laid out before you, and your publisher was so helpful in organizing it? Or do you think it was the fear of something is always worse than the something? No,
I think she demystified the process, which was great. She really gave me she laid it out and said, this is what you'll be responsible for. And then we're going to have these fantastic people doing these other elements and aspects. And you're going to be there the whole time and putting in your 2 cents, of which I was. I did everything with everyone. But I did feel like I was working with professionals. I didn't have to feel like, oh God, they're not going to be able to do their job, that kind of thing, which I kind of feel a lot in my restaurants. I mean, aside from working with my sort of core gang, there's a lot of picking up the pace and the slack for people who don't do their job. Whereas my cookbook people, as I call them, were just like bang on. They were there.
Really?
100%. So
efficient and effective.
And just great at their jobs.
Right on.
So, yeah.
Okay.
It was fun. It was actually just like super fun.
Did you have a non-negotiable, like a number one non-negotiable for how this book was going to, what the final product was going to be like?
I did have some things that were non-negotiable. I think the biggest struggle when you're doing a book like that comes down to sort of like, I would have put in many more recipes. I would have written more. But the people who actually do the sort of graphic part of it are very, they want it to be clean. They want it to be legible. They want open spaces. They want, so that you're fighting constantly with them about that. That kind of like,
aesthetic.
A bit like the holding of an aesthetic against what the person actually, the content.
Form over content or content over form.
And apparently that's very typical, and it's the struggle that exists, and exists for a good reason. But yeah, I was sort of like, I'm not just making a coffee table book, and I want people to really get the information that they need. So I was very stern on that, Like if they would say, well, can't we just leave out that last line because it's not nice on the page? I was like, no, people won't understand how to do the recipe if we take that out. That's important information. We have to find a way to make it work, that kind of thing.
Okay. I love that throughout it, there's so much of your voice. There's a lot of your writing, a lot of your narrative, a lot of the story, the Olive story.
Yeah.
And the story of you and Eric, your partner. I tend to think of him, he's all in my mind. I mean, I know him, so I know him.
Yeah, of course.
So he's not mystical to me.
Yeah.
But I almost think that like he's the Wizard of Oz. Do you know what I mean? Like he's the guy who no one sees.
Yeah.
And if they do, it's sort of out of the corner of their eye. It's like a unicorn.
Yeah.
Fleeting for a second.
It's so true.
Yeah. But I love that this book, it's almost like if you could step into the book, you would be in Olive and Gourmando. You feel it. The aesthetic is there. The chalkboard, the writing is there. The sense of humor is there. Your humor is in there. I remember one of the recipes I read was like, you're not gonna be able to like, you're gonna like want to sink your fangs into this recipe. But there's so much storytelling in it as well, which is unusual in my experience of cookbooks, and I love it because it makes it so much more personal, and it sort of gives us a little bit of your energy as opposed to just here's the recipe, make it. Was that also intentional?
Yeah, I think that many of my favorite cookbooks are actually like that. What happens is that restaurant cookbooks, and especially restaurants that have been around for a long time, tend to be like that because you are not just like a blogger or a recipe developer or something. You have this beast that you're, you know what I mean, that has life and form and stories and people and all these things. So everyone who writes a cookbook who owns a restaurant, generally there are lots of great stories. And they're always the best cookbooks. It's just more, I don't know, just more stuff.
Yeah, but what I particularly loved is when you talk about when you first found the space and how old Montreal was just a wasteland, a complete wasteland.
It was insane.
And
it was so abandoned. People have no idea how abandoned it was. I mean, the buildings were beautiful, but in a way it was ugly because there was no life, like zero life. We would look across at the Phi Center, and it was like this weirdest, I don't know, kind of like a bunch of Jews from Toronto, from New York, like Hasidic Jews would own it, and they would come and present sort of like a crystal and glass things there, but it was like a weird...
Like what, like exhibitions or something?
Yeah, like a kind of distribution center, but that was mostly dead. But then they would set up shop, and it was almost like a week-long fair, and you could see people coming in and out and like leaving with dish sets and stuff. It was very odd. I don't know. But it was empty most of the time with just like these like aqua green like walls and the weird neon lights and like just another era in old Montreal.
And did you say that in the book that there were gas street
there
lights?
Still
are there? Oh, really?
Yeah.
I work down there. I do not know that.
Yeah, it's funny because we don't know that, but they're gas.
Really?
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Yeah.
That sort of adds to that sort of gloomy, sort of almost Victorian England feel whenever I think of old Montreal.
So beautiful, Montreal.
Tell me about this process of commercial success, because I'm assuming, I mean, we haven't spoken numbers, but I'm assuming that the book is doing incredibly well. I know tons of people who have either already got it or who come over to my place, they see my copy and they're like, ooh, I wanted to check this out before I read. And then they you know, and by the way, I think the greatest thing about this cookbook, and I've told you this right after I got my copy, was that when you make a recipe,
It works.
Like for the well, number one, yes, it works. But for the soup specifically, it makes so much. I'm so used to getting recipe books where you make the recipe and it says it serves 4 or 6 people, and 3 of you at the dinner table are like scraping the bottom.
Starving to death.
Yeah.
Fighting
I'm like, God, I wish I had a bread entree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I've done a couple of these soups so far. I had soup for a week. I'm not even lying.
Maybe that's... don't listen to that. You know, like I'm like, whoops.
No, but it's okay.
We tried really hard to scale down, but I mean, I like that. But maybe for some people, that's a nightmare. But I feel like you should freeze these things.
Well, but that's what I did.
I'm like, freeze up a whole bunch of that soup. You're going to be so happy.
And it's so good.
Yeah.
Even when you unfreeze it, when you make
perfect.
it again, it's perfect.
I know.
I appreciate that so much because there's nothing more annoying to me than getting a cookbook and making the recipe and realizing that I just worked all this hard. And listen, I'm not naturally a chef, so I can follow a recipe really well. But, this shit doesn't come necessarily easily to me. And then, you go through all that trouble and it's gone at that first sitting. And you could have even eaten more.
For sure. And especially the next day. I love leftovers personally.
Me too.
But especially with soup, it tastes better. Actually gets better.
I think, everything sort of steeps together. No,
it's stew.
It's fantastic. It's my favorite thing about it. But this whole notion of commercial success to you, when you think back about, when Olive first opened, and you go back to that version of you, would that version of you ever have been able to fathom what's going on now?
No, never.
Why?
I don't, my mind doesn't work like that. It's very strange. I'm not a yogi in any way, but I do really sort of live in the here and now.
I would counter that statement.
Zero flexibility.
No, but that's not true. I've taught you for years.
I know, but
and you are a yogi, and you're a mind yogi. But anyway, go on. I
maybe
interrupted.
more so. But I tend not to sort of think about the future very much. I'm very careful. I'm not like a, I'm not carefree in the sense of like, I'm living on my last dollar and woohoo, who cares? I'm a careful person, a very responsible person, but I don't project myself into the future a lot. I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm also one of those people like Eric used to always get mad at me and sort of say, you don't have any dreams. You don't have any fantasies. Like what? Because he would sort of be fantasizing about something and I'll be the person to like pull him down and be like, okay, that's nice. But let's get real. This is tomorrow. This is what we have to do, whatever. So that's me. A little bit of like, rain on your parade kind of person sometimes, but which means also I'm really not that person who's fantasizing very much about what I could be or the great things and I don't know if that's good or bad. It just is. And so, no, I was not ever that person thinking, oh, one day Olive's going to be this or one day we're going to have that at all. That's my business partner. I was really just worried about next week and getting through it, doing a good job.
I think,
it's bizarre, but that's really who I am.
But I think that what you're describing is indicative of a lot of very, very successful people because I think they're so focused on the project in front of them that they don't think about what it might lead to because you can't really know.
No. But you can hope.
Yeah.
I meet people who are they're dreamers and I admire that. Like they have, and they imagine that they could do these things that I think, are you insane? Maybe I lack confidence in that sense, but I would not put myself in a position that seems beyond my capacity. Whereas I'm surrounded by people who do that on a daily basis.
But don't you think that that's the best partnership? Because you've got Eric who sort of lifts you up and shows you possibilities. And then you're there to say to him, okay, like slow your roll for a bit, just for a second.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that's been the secret of our success, for sure. As to whether he likes that about me and I like that about him, not always.
Debatable. But it's resulted in everything that's going on.
Yeah, no, it's true. We're good that way. Even she's a dreamer. Mm-hmm. I think it's great. I mean, she just sold and closed her restaurant and the things that she's imagining herself doing, I'm just like, okay, 40 years old now.
But I identify with that.
I appreciate that. Yeah. It's nice.
I'm a dreamer as well. Yeah. And my partner is very much in the present, in the earth the grounding force. You know, I'm like the unifying hope force, and he's very much the grounding force. And I think it makes for excellent partnerships.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Necessary, probably.
And when you look at all of the success that all of these businesses have, they almost take on a life of their own. I feel like every restaurant becomes its own living entity.
Me too.
And then all of a sudden you are the one who has to represent them. Yeah, I find it fascinating.
Very strange, especially like when in Po Di Piu opened up, especially that business in particular, that restaurant, because that was really the brainchild of Eric and something he really wanted. And I was kind of like, you know what, go knock yourself out, have a ball, but just sort of figure it out on your own. I'm busy, you know, literally rolling up my sleeves at Foxy on a daily basis, because Foxy wasn't that old and I was very involved in that restaurant. And so when that restaurant sort of came to fruition and people would be like, love your new restaurant, tell me all about it. And I was sort of like, I don't feel that close to that restaurant yet. I don't know it. I haven't been. I barely worked there. It's not, you know, the name, I can't even pronounce the name. It's sort of, it's not my restaurant, but then again, it is. So it's interesting. That's a very interesting thing. That's new for me. Because Olive is like, I mean, I birthed Olive. Every aspect of Olive just feels like me. But these new places are, you know, just like slightly removed. Each place as we go, like time out even more so. So it's kind of interesting. It's a strange process.
It's the empire.
I guess.
All of a sudden, the love child ends up being followed or, you know, followed suit.
Yeah, or as if you had grandchildren or something.
Yeah.
It's that strange thing where it's a connection. You're very connected to that person, but it's not your child. Yeah, it's strange.
And yet you're still the spokesperson.
I know.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because eventually when I told Eric, so it's yours and you do your thing with it, and then people were calling me up and I said, is there any way that we can change this? Do you want to talk to Eric? And then Eric would be like, I don't want to talk to them. And I thought, how is this happening? I'm being forced to be the spokesperson for this restaurant. And so that's how it happens. And then eventually, suddenly it is my restaurant. And suddenly I am involved in it. And so he has gotten his way and opened another restaurant and forced me to be involved in it.
And was the cookbook sort of along the same lines? Was this something that he was really pushing you to do, or he thought would be really good for the business?
He was pushing me to do it, yes, of course, but he never had any intention of doing it. So he knew I would do it, and so he would push me, but he also treaded lightly because he understood that he wasn't the one who was going to do it. Whereas with other projects, he's kind of like, you know, just give me the go. I will make it happen. Right. He's good at like creating things, the day-to-day, not so much. The grind, not so much. Okay. Like that's not his thing.
Right. He's bigger picture.
So he'll hand the thing off, you know, after. And he'll be like, it's messy now.
Here you go.
This little messy thing. I want to go dream of something else. I'm like, oh. So yeah, that's how that goes.
Do you think that he sees something in you that you don't see in yourself?
Probably. Yeah, I think from day one he does. Because even when we worked together at Tokay, and he was so young. He was 25. He was actually 24. And he said, I'm going to quit and I'm going to go open my own business. And I said, wow, that's amazing. We were getting along very well at that point. We loved working together. And I said, well, if you do, call me and I'll come work for you. And he was like, no, I want you to quit too. And you're going to open it with me. And I remember thinking, oh my God. What? Excuse me, I think you have the wrong person. So with that, even at that moment, he saw something in me that I didn't see. So that's really interesting. And I think he still does, for sure.
I think that there's something about that. You know, I sort of coach or mentor a lot of people. And there are times where I have to get them to believe in themselves. And then there are times where I have to sort of guide them to pay attention to what other people are saying about them and trust that that's actually also possible. And not necessarily in a negative way, but when people think great things about, a lot of people for some reason are walking through life thinking they don't deserve or they shouldn't, or who am I to have this muchness or abundance or whatever. And sometimes I have to tell them, if people are reflecting this back to you, you can trust that. You know, and so you don't have to know why. No. But you have to trust that it is.
Yeah, it's happening to you, and therefore it's yours. Kind of.
Yeah, and you can own it. You can claim ownership over it.
Yeah, as long as you didn't like do anything horrible and unethical and steal it from someone. I think it's all good.
Yes. Yes. Don't hurt anybody in the process.
That's what I always say to myself. I'm like, we do have success and we've been good people and we have not hurt it. Because to me, that's very important. So.
And I want to talk to you about that because you have a reputation for being very, very good to your employees. And I'm talking on like a monetary basis, financial basis, on a personal basis, on a human basis, in terms of leave, in terms of time off, that kind of thing. Yeah. Why?
It's part of my fiber. Like, it's just really important to me. I think I have I'm one of those people who has like guilt about, privilege or doing well. And so it is very important to me that, that's why the cookbook's dedicated to the employees, because I feel like you need to give credit where credit is due, and you need to take care of the people who lift you up. And, I would be the worst queen. Very bad at it. I think
not the dictatorial type.
All the diamonds would be plucked out of my crown and given away. Like I need to feel, I have discomfort sometimes being the boss. Like when people will introduce me as like, oh, this is my boss, and I'm like, ugh, aren't we friends now? I feel like I'm your friend. So I'm not comfortable with that position. So for me, it's sort of I want to recognize and take care of the people who are ultimately my success. I mean, they're a part of my success. So
I think that's so refreshing. It's so refreshing not to have, bullies and tyrants in these positions, because there are enough of those.
There are lots of those.
Yeah, but it's I find it, and I think that probably is what is one of the factors that makes you so personable, attractive to people, why people tend to really resonate with whatever you're doing, whatever you're offering out into the world, because you're just you. Do you know what I mean? Well, and I'm sort of the same. No matter where I am, I talk the same. I speak the same. I speak to my best friends the same way I speak to a group of 400 people who I'm teaching, or 2 people who I'm teaching, or a lecture, or whatever. And I think it's really important to have that authenticity, because I think that's what one of the ingredients to success is.
Me too.
Just be you.
Yeah.
Just
I
do
think
you.
People can smell it when you're not authentic.
Yeah. I can smell it.
Yeah, me too. But I think that's true for restaurants too. We walk into spaces and we know they might not be perfect. They might not even be what we like, but we know when they're authentic. We just know it within 2 seconds.
You feel it.
Yeah.
And all of your restaurants, you feel that. Mm-hmm. You feel that they are different, sometimes different aspects.
Very different, yeah.
But nonetheless, the same vibe, the same energy.
There's like real people behind those places.
Yeah. And real work and real artistry.
Yeah. And ups and downs. And
what do you get out of all this? Is there a need psychologically? Do you think there's a need in
there
you?
There must be.
Because you're operating on like you're full steam ahead right now.
Well, right now, yeah. I don't think this is sustainable at this particular juncture. I think there are things going on that came together at this moment that were not planned that way. I never intended on opening up at Timeout and coming up with my cookbook at the same moment. That to me is kind of bonkers, but shit happens and you can't really control that kind of stuff. But I do get something out of it, or I wouldn't keep going. I don't know what it is yet. It's a funny question. It's a good question, because I ask myself that question a lot. I'm like, I question if, I try to check back in and make sure that I'm happy, because we can be on automatic pilot in this world of just like producing and doing. There's so much shame in our society around just chilling out, not being productive. We have we put a lot of value on being productive as opposed to just taking care of yourself or slowing down. We measure our success by that. So it's very hard not to be caught up in that. And I really try hard to think about that a lot and think, are you actually liking this? Or are you just like, gotta go. So I think I like it, but it's a question that needs to be asked a lot to make sure you're protecting certain things.
I have never seen you unhappy. No. And I can honestly say that.
Yeah. We've been together a lot. We've done lots of things.
Yeah. And I've never seen you unhappy.
No.
I've seen you questioning, but that just means that there's an awareness, I think. But yeah, I do the same. I question because I don't know why I feel the need to do all the work that I do in the world, but I just do. I just feel the need, so I do it. I don't ask the why. It must fulfill something I mean, there must be a need in me to help people and somehow be healed by helping people. I just don't know what I'm healing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean.
Yeah. What's the hardest lesson that you've had to learn along the way, whether it be in the creation of the empire or whether it be with the cookbook? The hardest lesson really comes from the expansion of my business, learning to let go a little bit, learning that I can't control everything, to not take all the responsibility on my shoulders, being okay with myself if I fail an employee, whereas before I could be available, and as you expand and you have that many more employees, there are people who are going to slip through the cracks. There are situations that you're not going to be able to deal with. And I do think like I have that capacity where I think if I'd just been there, and I think it's true, I could have fixed it. And that might be true, but I can't be everywhere all the time. So I have to make my peace with that, and that's been a really hard lesson. What's interesting,
I'm really hard on myself about that stuff.
What's interesting though, something just hit me when you said that, is that you can't be everywhere, but the food can be.
Yeah.
So when you look at like what you're getting out of it, it may have something to do with actually like feeding, nourishing. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
For sure. People who are in this industry, chefs particularly, I mean, they're nurturing people. I mean, feeding someone is like 101 of like down with, shelter, water. These are like the sort of most basic caveman nurturing gestures we can make is to make food for somebody. So it's definitely a nurturing profession. So no matter what kind of person you are drawn to that. You want to take care of people on some level. There's no doubt. Mm-hmm.
And then maybe in the process get taken care of, knowing that that's happening. Yeah,
and it feels good. It's like nothing feels better, and it's immediate gratification. I mean, you make something to eat, someone eats it, the look on their face, the sounds that they make. I mean, it's like right away whether you did a good job or not. It's pretty instant. So that's fun.
And to have this kind of love, I mean, everybody loves your restaurants. They love your restaurants. There's no indifference. I've never heard anybody say, oh, I was there and it was okay. Ever. And it's not like everybody knows that I know you, so I don't think they're being careful. I think people love what is going in. Did you ever, I forget what it's called in Spanish, but like Water for Chocolate? Did you ever read that book? Or watch the film?
I saw both. I saw the film and I read the book. So good.
I think of that when I eat at the restaurants. I feel like, it's almost like the energy that was put into it is what you leave with because you've ingested it. It's it's like rich, but not like overly rich. It's just like abundance, love, beauty rich in food.
But I definitely think you can taste the care and intention in food. There's no doubt.
And the quality.
Yeah.
And the quality. The quality of the food is bar none. Truly.
That's the story with Valrhona Chocolate and Bram Levinson, who tried to find Valrhona at Pravigo.
I mean, okay, so listen, she's referring to it, so I'll talk about it. But
it's the best.
The greatest cookie I've ever had is the Attack of the Killer Chocolate cookie at Olive Gourmando. It's sort of like everything you want, but you need to, like I need to almost go caveman with it. When I have it, I need to be in an enclosed space, no one around me. It's almost intimate, my relationship with that cookie. And then the recipe is in the book. The recipe is in the book, and I was like, no, this is going to be ugly. And then I thought, I'm going to go source the ingredients. And there's like, I think 3 different chocolate chips or chocolate boutons, and 2 of them are Valrhona. Yeah. And I didn't know what that was. I mean, I'm a heathen, right? So I was like, I go across the street to like Pravigo Loblaws, I'm like looking next to like the baker's chocolate. I'm looking next to the no name. I'm like, oh, they don't have it here. Okay, I'll go to Metro. So I go to Metro, same thing. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, you know what? Maybe I just need to source it. I'll do a little bit more work. I don't have time now. I'll get to it. And then I thought, oh, I have the internet. I was like, I can look on the internet. I looked on the internet. I was like, wow.
I know. I love it. Quote unquote. That shit costs $100 a bag.
It does. Those chocolate chips, just for one of those chocolate chips. I mean, the quality of the ingredients that goes in of the ingredients that go into the food is unbelievable. And then you said, oh, but you don't have to buy it in a bag. You can get it and go to the Atwater Market or whatever. which I will do. I will also go by Olive Gourmando and get it, or go by the Timeout. I went by the Timeout Market location,
the
and I
pecan
got
chocolates there.
yeah, and also the brownie. The brownie. For the people listening to this, if you haven't had the Olive Gourmando brownie. So when I first made my career shift in 2008, 2009, I got a job writing for an online magazine, reviewing places, reviewing restaurants. I was a restaurant reviewer. Okay? Like, I like cereal for dinner. I was reviewing restaurants. But it was very structured, and it was, your copy had to be within a certain amount of characters and whatever. And then I was assigned the top 5 brownies in the city. And the greatest gig I ever had to date was going around the city and buying brownies for work and then eating them for work. And the Olive Gourmando brownie back then was the best brownie, in my opinion, in the city. And it still is. There's so much that goes into it.
Yeah, there is. It's kind of, it's a bit wacko.
Yeah. I mean, I'm careful with sugar these days, but there are certain things that I'll crack on, and that's one of them. Hardcore crack on that. Seriously. Because it's sort of like crack. I think that the most obvious thing to me about your success, and specifically this book, as I said earlier, is that your voice is the same. Your expression is the same. It doesn't change. It's so perfectly, uniquely, authentically you. Do you think that there is something for other people to learn from that? That in a world where we seem to be elevating bullies and tyrants to sort of the collective consciousness of what's popular. These are the people who are getting elected to office. These are the people who are getting on magazine covers. The people who are the most sensational are the people who are taking off the most clothes. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of content. It seems like there's a lot of form, right? But not a lot of content.
Yeah.
What can you tell the people who are listening about just let your freak flag fly kind of thing?
I mean, it just seems so obvious, but that very cliche idea of be yourself, that ultimately, if you do have something that's going to appeal to people, you just have to put it out there and see. But for the most part, people are truly attracted to what is really authentically ourselves, like our true selves.
Okay, so I've got one more question that is sort of like 2 questions. What do you need that you don't have?
What do I need that I don't have? That's just such a great question. I really need to think about it for a second.
Okay, well, maybe this might help. What do you want that you don't have?
I want structured time to take care of myself. So I need to figure out how I'm going to do that, to get back my exercise routine, because these things make me feel very good. And I'm the first person who will sort of line up a yoga class at 9, and then if I get the phone call and something else is going down, I'll just scrap that.
Most people do.
Yeah.
Most people do. With yoga, with wellness stuff, it seems to be the first thing that gets knocked off the priority list.
Yeah. And there have been moments in my life where when it hasn't, like when I have a scheduled sort of appointment with myself and that exercise or that class or whatever it is, and I treat it like anything, like something that just can't be changed. It's in the calendar. It's as important as anything else. But lately, and with all these projects, it's been the first thing to go. And that's hard because I need it and I like it. So I need to figure out how to get back to that.
Okay. Yeah. So that answers that may answer both questions.
I mean, it's definitely up there with that sort of balance. Just being able to balance the work with everything else.
Okay. So do you find that you don't have as much balance right now as you'd like?
I don't have as much as I had. No.
And is that a recent thing given the Timeout Market situation and the cookbook thing, or does it predate that?
It predates that. I mean, it sort of goes to when we start after Foxy. The minute you add another restaurant, another business into your business, it's like, yes, you delegate more. Yes, there's that many people who are helping you, but your job just is that much more. There's that many more people to communicate with. Just that is work. And so it does increase your workload, and you need to figure it out.
And you also do that mindfully. Like you give a shit about these people.
Yeah, I do.
You care about their livelihood. You care about their lives.
Yeah.
Outside of work.
Yeah. A lot, actually.
That's a huge responsibility.
It is. And the customers and everyone. So you really need to, and in the day and age we live, like, 15 years ago, there were no texts. I mean, you got home and people couldn't reach you all the time. Like now we're just accessible all the time, everybody.
Is your phone always on?
It's on, it might be around, but like more and more and more it's close to me, because if somebody texts me and then I answer an hour later, sometimes like that's very problematic.
Right.
They're living something
in the moment. Yeah,
that's important and they need an answer, and I might be the only person who can give them that answer. So it's
no pressure.
A lot of pressure. It's psycho. Yeah, I don't know. It's the telephone has changed all of our lives.
Yes.
I can't. Sometimes I'm just like, I hold it like it's an extension of my arm.
Yes.
And it freaks me out.
I know.
I don't even like technology. I don't know shit about technology.
I know.
But it is almost like an ID card or something.
And it soon can become. I think isn't like the whole like credit cards on your phone now.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet. But there are some people that like if they lose their phone, it's like they've game over.
Yeah. That scares me.
Yeah, me too.
A lot.
And then the creepy cloud with everything in it.
The cloud. I don't know. I've always thought that if you trust the cloud for your most valuable, like for your most intimate details,
I know,
you're playing a very risky game.
You are. But then if you don't have the cloud and you lose your phone, you're also playing a risky game at this point.
It's so funny that you said that because I had an iPhone until they started messing around with, on purpose, they started to like create planned obsolescence, right? So they created stuff in updates years ago that would make the phone slower. It would slow the phone down or slow the battery down or whatever. And then they finally copped to it. They admitted it and then said, okay, well, we'll give you a discount if you want to change your battery to get a battery so the phone runs faster, or the battery runs faster. You can go into the Apple store, you'll get the battery, there'll be a discount on it. And I just thought, fuck you. Wow. And so I got rid of iPhone. I still have iPad because it's still working. But I keep getting emails from Apple saying that my iCloud storage or whatever, like I've run out of space. So I can either buy more at this amount per month, or at a certain date, it's just going to delete everything. And I just thought, that's literally holding me hostage.
Yeah.
And you know what? I will like migrate that shit onto my laptop, and that'll give me one more reason to not support that. But it's tough. It's tough because, listen, I went from Apple to Google. I mean, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You know what I mean? I still have to, when I have a question, I'm still speaking into my phone to hear a robot answer my question.
Yeah.
I just did it. I just said it, and Google just responded. Yeah. Google is waiting for me to say something. Well, this is what I have to say to Google. It has been a pleasure to sit with you. It has been a pleasure in this context too. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, thank you for taking the time to do this. I know you're very busy. You just came out. What do you call it? In French, it's
Salon du Livre.
Salon du Livre. But what do you in English? It's the English fair, the book fair.
It's a book fair.
Yeah.
/ Dungeons and Dragons / Madonna concert. I don't know. There were people running around in medieval outfits.
No.
There was like 20,000 people dressed up as Handmaid's Tale. Like, yeah, there were groups of women dressed up in the Handmaid's Tale, because it's all books in French.
Really?
But like everything that's been published this year in French.
Oh, hold on. So that's paid for. Those are people who are hired by, I would imagine, the publishing houses.
I guess. Yeah.
Okay, it's not like Comic-Con.
Because no, but they translated Atwood's book, her newest book, so whatever. But like, there's just so much craziness there, as well as people. So many people.
I had no idea.
Yeah, me neither. It's my first time, I'm ashamed to say.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm almost ashamed to say I've never done it, but my books are self-published, so I haven't had to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it would have probably been a very helpful thing for me to do. One day.
Probably.
We'll see.
Yeah. But it's only in French.
Okay.
Just so you know.
I'll just have to translate my books into French then.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you for doing this.
Yeah,
I hope you got something out of it. I definitely did. I hope the listeners got something out of it. And, for all of you listening, give it all a good think, and I'll see you later. This has been the Examine Life with Bram Levinson.